Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to another weekly recap. In the weekly recap, I like to go over any news related to the old school RuneScape community this week. Now today we actually did get a content update, including a brand new PvP update, which has added in loot keys to old school RuneScape. And on top of that, Jagex has revealed a bit more information on a upcoming update to the Android app. And as always, I'll be covering anything else interesting from the community this week. I hope you guys enjoy as always. If you do, always appreciate liking these videos. Thanks for watching, and let's get started. Well, people, can you believe it? 2 or even more than 2 potentially PvP updates in a single year already. Not bad. So the big headliner part of today's update is the Deadman mode style loot keys. These are now going to be available in the main game, and if you don't really know what they are, they're pretty simple. Now if you have loot keys enabled, now whenever you kill someone, instead of them dropping all of their items in a giant item stack for you to pick up, instead you can just have them drop a single loot key, which you'd put into your inventory. From there, you'd be able to open it up in a bank to receive all the loot in a safe area, where you then have a pretty peaceful environment to loot. Now in Deadman mode, this was enabled by default, but in old school, that's not the case. This is going to be opt-in, which means by default, you're not going to have this unlocked. Now in old school RuneScape, the key can contain up to 28 of your target's most valuable items, which otherwise would have been dropped on death. So it is possible if your opponent was absolutely stacked and had a full inventory, you may still have to loot a few things off the ground, but most will go in the key. Now this new loot key ability, like I said, is not going to be on by default, and it's also not going to be free. To unlock the ability, you have to purchase it from Scully for 5 million GP. And Scully is located in the Ferox Enclave. But once you have unlocked it, you're able to toggle it on and off for free. Now there's quite a few benefits to loot keys, primarily the fact that you're able to stay out PKing longer. A good example is, say you want to go ahead and try to kill some green dragon bots in the wilderness, you could now go on an absolute rampage, because even if they had a full inventory of bones and d'hide, that will now just essentially take up 1 inventory slot, which would now be the loot key. Now there is a limit to how many loot keys you can have at once, the limit being 5 at a time, and for every key you have, a skull will appear above your head showing you that you have one, to advertise to everyone that you have some loot on you. Now you can customize how loot keys work. For example, you're able to decide whether your opponent's food and potions go into the loot key or are dropped on the ground. That way you'd be able to resupply during your trip without having to go back to a bank. And you're also able to change the value threshold of the loot keys so that items above a certain threshold will appear on the ground. So you're able to somewhat customize what exactly you want in the key and what exactly you want on the ground. Now another kind of fun feature is Scully will keep track of how much loot you've cashed in with keys, so there is a log for that. Now what exactly happens when you die with a loot key? Well, loot keys themselves will always be dropped on death, whether PvP, PvM, skulled or unskulled, which means you want to get out of the wilderness with them, because if you die, they're gone. Now if you die to another player, your keys will be transferred to them. If not, they're deleted. Now if you're an Ironman, you are actually able to unlock loot keys, but you only have the option to destroy the contents of the key entirely. So a pretty interesting update that actually has quite a lot of use cases pretty much anywhere in the wilderness, but especially areas where you kind of do a lot of high volume PKing. Seems pretty fun to me. Now, another thing that has been changed in today's update is Nex has been added to the combat achievement log. So there are now 11 new combat achievements for Nex. They kind of spread themselves over Elite all the way up to Grandmaster. So to run through the tasks here, the first one, pretty easy, kill Nex once, not that hard. And we have kill Nex without dying, also pretty easy. So moving on to the master task here, we have some fairly easy ones, assuming you're not doing it in a mass. But for the tasks are simply just to do the entire fight without being hit by the smoke dash, the blood siphon, an ice special attack, or a shadow smash attack. Not too hard. Next up here we have a Nex trio, which is simply to kill Nex with 3 people. Now interestingly, they still went with a kill count task, Nex master, so kill Nex 100 times. There's still a bit of debate on whether these should exist at all, but there's still one major kill count task, 100 Nex. Next up here we have Nex duo, which is to kill Nex in a duo. That one's pretty challenging. Another Grandmaster task, kill Nex while a player is coughing. You know what, I would have completed that like 100 times on the first day. And finally here we have Perfect Nex, which is kill Nex without getting hit by any of their special attacks. That one sounds pretty hard. Now the way this works for combat achievements is when new achievements are added, you will lose your combat tier equipment, which means you'll have to redo these to unlock everything, similar to a quest cape. Alright, so that is it for most of the actual content updates today, but there is a bit of interesting information regarding a few important things. Now the most exciting news that was revealed today is we have a release date for the updated Android client. So the new Android client is going into open beta on February 28th. Now of course we already have an Android client and iOS client, but the new Android client is going to have a whole host of quality of life changes, including the integration of some indicators and plugins, which is going to be kind of game changing for Android. So the open beta is going to allow you to test out a few important things here. We have buff bars, fishing spot indicators, we have HUD improvements, we have agility and Slayer helpers, chambers of Zarek helpers, wood cutting and ore respawn timers. There's an increased draw distance, so that's quite nice. Navigation tile indicator, and finally here we have entity highlights for NPCs. So those are all great. I'm really excited to try them out on Android. I do have to say though, there is one feature here that is very noticeably lacking, and that is ground items. This might be my own opinion, but I would trade literally all of those new updates to the Android app for simply just ground items. I actually think that one is so important, and I probably can't see myself using the app until that is added, but hopefully that is coming soon. Now if you want to try out the new beta, anybody can, although you do need an Android phone with Android 8.0 or later and 2 GB of RAM. Now joining and leaving the beta is pretty simple, although there are some instructions. You essentially have to open up the Play Store, go to manage your apps and devices, find old school RuneScape, and then you can go ahead and join the beta. So we're now getting actually pretty close to the end of the Shattered Relics League, and as of February 23rd, here is the point distribution. Dragon rank is just a bit above 40,000 points. Kind of crazy. Rune rank is 26,000, Adamant is 13,000, Mithril is around 5,000, Steel is 1,600, and Iron rank 480. I think we might have made Steel rank, I guess. Now on top of that, we have the poll results in for content poll number 76, and everything is passed. I'm actually kind of surprised there's a few in there I didn't think would pass, but literally everything passed. A couple really close ones, actually I think the closest one is should the quantity of combat achievement kill count tasks be significantly reduced. Actually surprised that one was so close, only passed by 0.3%. Now, the one I thought would be really close was the Briofita questions. Should Briofita's staff become a free-to-play item, actually passed with 81%, and in addition to that, the Briofita's essence is also going to be available to get as a drop in free-to-play, so that's pretty impressive as well. So beyond that, all of the clue scroll changes have passed, all of the pet questions have passed, and I'm really excited to see this content poll coming in hopefully the coming weeks. So anyway guys, that's going to be it for today's episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Now, before I go here, I want to give a giant thank you to all of my members over on YouTube. Thank you so much to The Hybrid, Alejandra, Sizwani's Flail, and Kush Patel for all being subscribed to the Dragon tier. You guys are awesome. Thanks so much. Also, a big thank you to Cadell Studio Gaming, Locustiz, Mexos, Basetitch, NDM001, and YoYoSub89 for also being subscribed at the Runite tier. Appreciate it a lot. As always, if you're looking for another way to support the channel, becoming a YouTube member is an awesome way to do so. You will become immortalized in all of my future videos, get a custom role in my Discord server, and access to my video release schedule. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.